to kick inside. Oh, fire up. Oh, fire up. Oh, fire up. Oh, fire up, fire up, fire up. Hey! Ain't nobody living in a perfect world. Everybody's out there crying to be heard. But I got a new fire burning my heart, lighting up the darkness and moving like a meteorite. Oh, fire up. Oh, fire up. Oh, fire up. Oh, fire up, fire up, fire up. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe. Oh, fire up. Oh, fire up. Oh, fire up. Oh, fire up, fire up, fire up. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith.
Good morning.
We ready to roll, Jim?
We are ready to roll.
I'm sorry, we're having some technical difficulties.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. Jim and I were trying to figure it out. Well, welcome to RenéMarie's Stroke of Luck. I'm RenéMarie and we're live, so that's why we have technical difficulties once in a while. But we are going to have an extraordinary show today. I really want to thank Judy for doing her constant dedication and work to the show, and for just being on our foundation. And this show wouldn't be what it is without Judy's assistance and help and partnership. And so thank you so much, Judy. I also want to thank Diane Bromberg Stern for her involvement and her dedication to our foundation as well. We put her on the show, our board, and she has been running with it as in an incredible way. And both guests today are recommendations and referrals from Judy, and you're going to see what heartfelt guests we have today. But I do want to share a little bit about yesterday's experience. Bob Kern and I, we DJ'd for a wedding. It was a second wedding, and it came as an aha moment to us that, you know what, we should do second weddings. We should do lifestyle weddings. We love the music. We love to bring joy to people, and it just flowed so easily. So Jim, can you put on the videos that I showed? I sent you photos this morning, last minute. It doesn't matter if I always, everybody knows when you watch a show.
You want the
I
actual
always
pictures,
send,
Renee?
yeah, the
I
video,
have those.
pictures.
I have those.
Okay, the pictures of Jim and Bob and I.
Yep, it's up.
It's up. Which picture are you putting up?
It's the one with the two
Oh,
of
it's
you
the one of
better
me and
speakers.
Bob.
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
So this is me and Bob at the wedding yesterday, and we're going to start pressing that we do second weddings, and it really is a joy. And what an incredible wedding yesterday was. First weddings are really valuable and so a blessing and really a treasure for people, but sometimes for unknown reasons or just how life takes you, you get married again. And the words that were shared at this wedding were just very, very heartfelt and compassionate, and just the joy that they found someone for a second chance in life really was, it was magical. It was magical. And that's why Bob and I said, oh my God, it would be incredible to be a part of that celebration, especially with music. So, because Bob and I love music. So thank you, Jim. You could take it down. Oh, you took it down already. So anyway, and then I'd like to put the press piece up about today. You have that, just so we could show everybody our press piece that we came up with. Today's name of the show is Compassion is the Only Way. Because everybody knows that when Judy does her intense work and she puts a press piece together, I really think about what's the intention for the show and what is the vision and what's the purpose of this show. And it really is to show that Lisa and Barbara really do things with a lot of compassion, and that really is their I can't speak for them. We're going to find out in the show, but I feel that it really is a very big part of who they are and what they do. So Jim, you can take the photo down and show everyone on the screen so that we could begin to introduce everybody. Everybody there? Okay. So thanks so much, Jim. Okay. So Barbara, Lisa, thank you for joining us today. We always let Judy read the press that she put out because that kind of like leads us into the show. Judy, you got to unmute yourself. You ready? You're muted, Judy. You're muted. I just want to make sure everybody hears the wonderful words that you wrote.
Oh,
okay. Take it away,
much.
Judy.
Good morning, and I'd like to welcome our guests, Barbara Frieda and Lisa Bayer. Lisa Bayer, JD CCM CDP, is the owner, founder of LMR Elder Care LLC. She's a board-certified case manager, a licensed attorney, a certified dementia practitioner, and has earned the advanced professional level with the membership of the Aging Life Care Association. Lisa's volunteer activities relating to care management, including serving as a commissioner with the Commission for Case Management Certification and as a volunteer with AARP Speakers Bureau. At LMR Elder Care LLC, Lisa uses a holistic, client-centered approach and lends her legal and social service experience to help older adults, patients, persons living with disabilities, and their care partners make informed and practical short and long-term plans and decisions. ALCA, Aging Life Care Professional, is a health and human service specialist who acts as a guide and advocate for families who are caring for older relatives or disabled adults. The Aging Life Care Professional assists clients attaining their maximum functional potential. Their individual independence is encouraged, while safety and security concerns are also addressed. Aging life care professionals are able to address a broad range of issues related to the well-being of their client. They also have extensive knowledge about the costs, quality, and availability of resources in their communities. Aging life care professionals become the coach, and families or clients the team captain. Barbara J. Frieda is the Community Relations Specialist for Pro Medica Senior Care, Arden Courts of New Jersey, overseeing the Wayne, West Orange, and Whippany, New Jersey communities. As the brand ambassador for Arden Courts, New Jersey, Barbara shares her passion for senior memory care with community groups, medical professionals, and senior care businesses and individuals. She is a seasoned marketing professional with over 20 years sales and marketing experience, including pharmaceutical, publishing, and advertising. Barbara serves as the Public Relations Director for the Hanover Township Education Foundation and is an active member of the Women's Association for the Morristown Memorial Hospital and the recipient of the 2017 Tribute to Women's Award for the Boy Scouts of America. Arden Courts Memory Care is 100% dedicated to care for persons living with Alzheimer's and the other related dementias. Arden Courts is a division of Pro Medica, a mission-based, not-for-profit healthcare organization headquartered in Toledo, Ohio. She serves communities in 28 states, driven by its mission to improve health and well-being. Pro Medica has been nationally recognized for its programs and efforts to address social detriments of health. And now let's meet Barbara and Lisa.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Judy. I
Good
know there's
morning.
a lot of information going out, but I just like to make sure that everybody knows how involved you guys both are, and your history. So if you don't mind, let's go with Barbara first. Barbara, tell us specifically a little bit about yourself. And as I said in our Zoom green room, we'll get into conversations about things. But start out the program by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, thank you, Judy and Renee, for having me today. So, as the community relations specialist, with Arden Courts of North Jersey. So we also have another community in Cherry Hill. So I am the community relations for the Northern group, which is West Orange, Wayne, and
Arden
Whippany.
Courts, that's community, like
A facility,
assisted living. Yes. Okay.
Yes, assisted living, dedicated to Alzheimer's and dementia.
Okay.
So I started with with Arden Courts back in November. I had most of my career had been in I worked as a consultant for pharmaceuticals and also in advertising and marketing. And I did a lot of networking and interacting with a lot of senior industries such as the Senior Resource Group and Chamber of Commerce's. And I knew that this was an industry that I had a really strong passion for, helping seniors. I felt that I was the adult daughter, the adult children that are looking for their parents. I too experienced that with my mother about 20 years ago when she had Parkinson's. I think she had a little bit of Parkinson's dementia, and so I understand that how complicated it really is.
Right.
And being the youngest of 6 children, I had a lot of different ideas on how to take care of mom, but we all we did work through the system, but there wasn't a lot of guidance. There really wasn't. The social workers, the case managers, they kind of just gave you a list and said, go figure it out. And so I saw that it was an area that I felt that I could really make it, make a difference in, and that I had the, the compassion and the things that are, needed when making those decisions. So that's where I am. And I am thrilled and excited. I love what I do. I spend every day out, just sharing what Arden Courts does. And we really do, we do it well. We do it with compassion, and we are the specialists. I say we're the experts in dementia care. There are other assisted livings that do offer memory care, but they do that in conjunction with other services and other levels of care. We only do that, and I have to say we do it well. And we're proud of it.
And it's so, I'm what's the word I'm looking for? I appreciate the fact that you saw the need and you followed your heart and you went in that direction. Because most people, they would complain about it, and they talk negatively about the industry. But sometimes when you want to make a difference, you have to hop in and you have to get involved. And you did that, and that's so appreciated, because we really do need people. And that's what my father always said, that the seniors, and the fact that with Jim and I were just talking about this before, senior levels are really different now than when our parents were our age, because you just had you seemed older than you were at the ages that we are now, so, but he always said, like, always get involved with seniors and medical, because you'll always have a purpose in life. So it really, it's such a valuable thing. And that's what I love about Diane, because Diane that's her mission. That's her passion in life. Diane Bromberg Stern from the Senior Resource Group of New Jersey. She really does want to make a difference. She networks, she matches people together. You call her, she'll give you 20 million things that you could, and that's another thing that's really important is, we feed people information, and they could make a choice themselves, so it's incredible. Thank you, Barbara.
She's awesome. She really is awesome. And I am so, she's made an impact, on me and on my, on personally and professionally. She's just awesome. I love Diane. Yeah.
I would love to get her on the show, but she doesn't like to Zoom. She's a background person. Like, just let me do this. She doesn't. I mean, I don't know. You were at our Tricky Tray.
Yes, right? I was. Yes, I was. That was an awesome event.
Did you come to our Tricky Tray?
So I ended up with COVID, so no.
Oh, okay. Oh. But like the backdrop work that she did on that, I'm like Judy with the telethon, Judy and Ginny with the telethon. I mean, there's a lot of work that gets involved.
And kudos to her husband. I mean, her whole house was inundated.
I know.
Everywhere. Thank God for Fred, right?
Yep. So thank you, Barbara. So Lisa, tell us a little bit about yourself. Then we'll get into, conversations about things.
So I think like Barbara, I was myself a caregiver. My dad.
That usually is the way, right?
Yeah, but just kind of going back. So I am an attorney. I went to school in New York. Wow. And while I was there, I helped form an organization called the Public Justice Foundation.
Wow. And
it was at the time, it still is actually. And I graduated over probably 35 years ago from law school. And so we started that, and that was amazing. And the idea being that we fundraised in order to provide summer grants for students who would be taking positions in underserved areas of the law. So, myself, I had received a grant not from the law school, but I worked at the Community Health Law Project in New Jersey, and at the time it was a nonprofit, a branch of Legal Services of New Jersey that serves people living with disabilities. I worked for the ACLU, so I kind of had some really cool hands-on experiences. And when I graduated law school, I went to work for Legal Services of New York City. So my clients at Legal Services were poor. and they were sick. I did disability law. So I worked in Social Security, helping them with the appeals, which was, you know, an unbelievable experience as an attorney and as a person, because I literally was responsible for making people who were homeless have homes, and benefits and food and health insurance and all those things that go along with our basic needs. So,
That's
you
what I
know,
was just thinking. I was just thinking like food, homes,
food.
like,
I mean,
lot of
one of my
food.
clients, and you know, the thing is, at the time, it made me, which maybe translated, you know, fast forward to where we are today. And you know, I know the title today is Compassion is Key. And you know, like I'm heading into the city later today, and you know, we will walk by a person on the street, homeless, whatever, you know, and I think it's important to remember that everyone has a story, everyone has a
Yes,
family,
yes,
everyone,
yes.
you know, and that is a lesson that I kind of, you know, learned really in the early 90s, where, you know, I had one of my clients, he was living under a bridge in Central Park. He had a family, he had owned a furniture store, his disability, he was fainting, he had like syncope, and he had cough syncope, and basically that was enough. He would fall, he lost his store, he lost his home, he had no business, he lost everything. And so, you know, I was able to learn about him, treat him like a human being, and help him get on his feet and really find shelter. And, you know, a lot of things I think we all just,
Take for
and myself
granted.
included, we take for granted.
Yeah,
You know, it's like,
yeah.
you know, where do you want to order from tonight? Well, you know, sometimes it's, and I'm not saying I don't participate in all the petty stuff into, and my own, just having, you know, family members go through health issues, myself, my friends, what have you. I do believe that you do need that petty stuff, because otherwise what's life worth living if we're going to spend our whole time, you know?
No,
So we do need that,
yeah,
you know?
I agree. And you know, that's why during the pandemic, we didn't ask. I mean, we did our telethon, but we didn't ask for money from anybody because we knew that the money needed to go to the food.
Exactly.
All money during the pandemic needed to go to food. People were out without jobs. They were, you know, they were struggling. I mean, it was
Exactly.
they were struggling, and the country is still struggling because of the pandemic.
I agree.
So, you know, and that's another thing that we believe in our organization, that listen, there's an organization out there for everybody, whether it's the Red Cross or whether it's, you know, no matter what, or the homeless or but always tide something, and if you don't have the money to tide, do it with time. You can certainly
100%.
of your time, because there was a point that I remember, you know, going into my pockets looking for pennies, looking for pennies. So I you know, and I always try to remember that when I'm, you know, out in the world, that there are people that need things. So you did a great, I mean, that's incredible, and that led you to today, right?
So yeah, so at the time, you know, kind of when I started working, my father and my grandmother were diagnosed with cancer. So my father had was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and my grandmother had leukemia, and they were different sides of the family. And so it was, you know, I hadn't even gotten married. I was engaged, and during that time, I got married, and it was really, you know, and I think, again, kind of going back to compassion is key. I was now in my late 20s and living with some very real life and death situations. My father he had a bone marrow transplant at 55 years old, and he was one of the first people to receive the transplant for the type of, you know, lymphoma. I mean, and he then, and you know, just kind of giving back, he did live another 28 years. He passed away this past December, at 83. So but he dedicated really the rest of his life towards finding a cure for lymphoma. So he was multiple time president of the Lymphoma Research Foundation. and to the day he died was supportive of you know, persons living. And he gave, yes, he gave money, but he also gave his time. And
Yeah.
anytime I had someone, you know, because, you know, he became obviously an expert in lymphoma, but he also became an expert in cancer care. And so anytime I'm literally to the day he died, and someone would say, you know, I need this, I need that. My father would say, just give him my cell phone number.
Yeah.
And he would talk to anyone. And I think he really taught me also, you know, to look at people, because not just people who, you know, had the means, but people who didn't have the means, and how can we help them move forward. So after I practiced law, my undergraduate's in early childhood, and I taught for a bunch of years when my kids were babies. And then I started my company. I left teaching and went to started my company in 2006.
Wow.
And so I've been doing this for almost, I guess, 18 years, or I'm in my 18th year of business. I'm a geriatric care manager, which is probably the word that I love your introduction. And I've never actually heard anyone verbally say all the things that aging life care professionals do. And that just sounded so wonderful. And, you know, we do have members all over the country. You know, and so, and everyone's a little bit, you know, have their different kind of specialties. I mean, mine happens to be in benefits and navigating long-term care insurance, but also the care of, you know, and this is something, I don't know how we're going to talk, but I know this is a little free flowing, and maybe Barbara would weigh in here. I always say to my families that I work with, you know, I typically work with the caregivers, although I do have a lot of clients who are solo agers and, you know, have no family or less family around. And I say to the caregivers, you know, your mom, your dad, your husband, your wife, your child, your partner, whomever, they're going to be okay because they have you. But I'm worried about you, and how are we going to take care of you, and what is your life like? And let's, you know, kind of look at everyone. So it's not just, you know, the silo of the patient, of the client, of the resident, or whatever. It's really taking into account everyone and the whole family, and the whole support system. And frankly,
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm sorry if I interrupt, but I definitely
good.
agree with that. And one of the things, it's actually a trademark or a patented thing, a memory cafe that we offer for caregivers. It's a support group. We have one in the greater Morristown area in Cedar Knolls. We meet twice a month. We have about 25 caretakers that come, and it's, you know, there is a condition called caregiver burnout. You know, it really is really stressful. Yeah. And, you know, we offer fellowship. We also offer, you know, we have keynote speakers that come in and share their, you know, their information to help them, because, you know, they're not alone, right? We just want them to know that we're here to partner with them. So our memory cafes are really very popular.
You know, Barbara, I could have used something like that when I was taking care of my dad. He had a hemorrhagic stroke, and he was in a nursing home, and I had to quit my job, take a part-time job, and I spent 6 hours a day watching what was happening there. And I felt that I did feel alone, because my husband was at work. He was very supportive, but other than that, everybody was saying, oh, you don't need to do that, you don't need to. And there is burnout. And I just kept going and going and going, and didn't eat dinner till maybe 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And you know what, I want
But
to
I
comment
don't regret it for a second. And I also took care of my mom.
And I think, Judy, that's the thing. You know, there's a lot of, you know, well-wishers out there, and Barbara, I'm sure you would agree, and RenéMarie, like, there's a lot of people, oh, you don't have to do that, oh, you don't have to do that, or how can I help, what can I do? And, you know, when I say that to people, I say it because I mean it, or I don't offer it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so, you know,
it's not just like something you need to say, because you're right. So, some people do say and never follow up on it.
That's correct.
Yes.
And there are times that I really can't offer support or help because of whatever's going on in my life. So I don't say it. And I think that that is something, you know, sincerity is so important. But I want to go back to what kind of what Judy said, because she was saying, everyone told me this and everyone told me that, not just like, let me know if I could help, but, it's one thing to like be on the outside and to tell people you don't have to do this, or call your sibling, or, he's in a nursing home.
My
It's
sibling
fine.
was in Maine.
But like, it's kind of like everyone's kind of telling you, I want to say, how to get out of the situation. I think the focus, and I know from my perspective, like, I'm not going to be able to convince a client that, or the client's family, that they're working too hard and that they need to just, leave a person. But what I can do is really focus on mindfulness and self-care. And one of my lines, and I use it constantly. I mean, I was speaking with, a friend of mine, and I said, she's taking care of, a child with a disability. And I said, that person, and I say this to everyone, the person you're caring for is going to be okay. And if you can't find the self-worth for yourself, as far as taking care of yourself, then do it for the person you're caring for. Because if something happens to you and you're the primary caregiver,
That's right.
it all, and so, I have this conversation a lot, if I'm working with a couple, and one, and they're older, and maybe not in both of them in the greatest health, and one of them needs more physical care than the other, and I've had it happen. You pull out your shoulder, then you're sitting there with
Yeah, at least listen.
so it's kind of like, I'm like, you need to hire, for instance, home care, or
I did. I hired
because
someone.
Yeah,
Because
but
I could only be there 6 hours a day, and I did have a part-time job. So
but the problem, Judy?
I hired someone to be there for the morning hours until I could get there.
You know what the problem with that is once again, we go to money, right? What if somebody can't afford, and I see Barbara shaking her head, so you can comment on this, Barbara. But what if people don't have the financial means to hire somebody, it really is very sad that, and this is one of our biggest mottos, is finances shouldn't have anything to do with healthcare. It shouldn't have anything to do. We should take care of the person first, then figure out how we're going to pay afterwards, because everything can be handled and managed, So Barb, I see you shaking your head. Do you have any comments?
Well, yeah, that's where our, our memory cafe is coming to play with, giving support to, to the sole caregivers that really don't have the means to, outsource some of those things. And that's where, we've found that, the fellowship part of the cafe, where, said, hey, why don't, I can watch because they're all local, I'll watch your loved one, and you can go and, get a massage or go food shopping. And so that's one of the things, kind of like, I was thinking back and kind of what you were saying, Lisa, about, like young mothers, right? So the same thing with young mothers. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't really take care of your children either. So it's the same kind of, philosophy. And I remember when I was young, and my husband, worked 70 hours a week. He had his own business, and we had a mom's group where we kind of tagged with each other, and we helped each other out, so that's where these groups that and there are a lot of organizations that have them, not just Arden Courts, but that's where the support with each other can help.
I tried, Barbara, to start a group like that. I even got cards. I spoke to other people who were taking care of either a parent or some relative in the nursing home, and I said we should meet and give each other some support, and there just wasn't any interest. I tried real hard to get it started, but
yeah, that's why we always talk about, not waiting till something happens to plan out your life. You plan when you're in the work industry, you have a plan of action, you have a working plan, and honestly, you should take a little more, I should add myself in that, we should take a little more time on making a working plan for your life as well.
100%.
And advocacy is so important, you know, and the truth is, like, I want to say this very carefully because you know, some people aren't kind to others, and then when they need something, they expect that they should be there for them. And you know, and the truth is, we should be kind to one another no matter what. And the fact that we and what Lisa was talking about before, about don't judge people because everybody has a story. So and look internally and work on yourself, you know. So that's a big one of our big messages, is to, you know, get the tools in your tool belt while you're healthy and while you're alive and while you can. And then it won't make the process, it will make it a little bit easier. It won't change the process about someone getting cancer or somebody having a stroke or somebody suffering from aphasia, but at least it will help everybody around you, and it will help your children, and it will help your family and friends around you. They won't feel so overwhelmed and bombarded, you know.
I mean, 100%. I mean, we actually have a program, we call it the Healthy Aging Life Planning. And the idea being that we really, you know, I will say 95% of the time I call when I get a call, there's a crisis or there's an emergency or there's a noticeable change in, you know, function, so to speak, of a person's loved one. And by the way, my calls typically also come from the caregivers, not from and I'm going to say older adult, because most of my practice, although I do work with, you know, adults living with disabilities and patients over the age of 18, I will say that most of my practice is dedicated to caring for older adults. And I just think that planning ahead, it's almost like, you know, people think that they should start planning when something happens or when they notice. It's way too late. I mean, I went through this with I'm going through it, you know, personally right now. My dad passed away. He had the best plans in place. But, you know, when we had to update powers of attorney and we had to update, you know, like there's just things that are always there. But a lot of times I'm working with families who really, they don't have the basics, the healthcare proxy. And we're sitting I remember one time I was at Princeton, I think it's Princeton Medical Center. It was down in that area. And we literally went to the nurse's station to print out the New Jersey proxy advanced directives. And there were staff in the hospital that were kind enough to be the witnesses of it for the patient lying in the bed with a trach, who did have capacity enough to sign it. But it was, you know, that's not the time, because making someone your power of attorney, your healthcare proxy, your financial person, power of attorney, that takes thought, that takes conversation. Right. You have to have buy-in from both sides. You have to know that the person you are, you know, appointing as your agent to make healthcare decisions, which, by the way, are really end-of-life decisions. Because if you have the ability to speak for yourself, or a person living with dementia, Barbara, I mean, I'm sure every single resident in your facilities, there's a family member with power of attorney. There has to be, otherwise they can't even pay the bill for them to be there. So, you know, we don't want to wait till we have to have a guardianship situation, right? Because
I want to add there, the healthcare proxy. I told both my parents about the healthcare proxy, and they both ignored me.
Yep.
And my father ended up with a hemorrhagic stroke and no healthcare proxy. Without the healthcare proxy, I couldn't make decisions for him. It would have been the
guardianship,
and the doctors, the administrators, or attorneys making decisions that he might not agree with. And luckily, it happened at night, and I managed to get there in time. And I called my dad's attorney, and told him what happened, that my dad had a hemorrhagic stroke. And he came first thing in the morning to the nursing home, and we actually got my dad to sign it,
Okay, good.
but that's
But
not always the case.
it's not, and everyone over the age of 18, this is not, should have a
Yes,
healthcare proxy, an advance directive. And in case people don't know what the difference is, the healthcare proxy is the document that appoints someone to act for you, and the advance directive is the set of directions of what it is that you want.
right.
And you don't, if your wishes are, no food, no water, no, whatever at a certain point, and I'm not throwing that out there.
Right.
Yeah,
You can have someone who believes in doing everything to keep someone alive, or can't handle the mental piece of it, of saying
Right.
it's time, you got to pick someone else, because
Wow.
then, and a lot of times
And
people
everybody
think
should do it at a very young age. I think 18, 19.
18. Yes, because
18,
we
when you're
sat-
emancipated. Yeah.
Right, we've had this conversation on the show that when children turn 18, they're not under their parents anymore. So, and most parents think, especially when they're going off to college, right? They think that they're covered, but they're not. And if something
No.
happens to that child, you're in trouble. We had that gentleman that was on the show. We did it live in Huntington at a gym studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, Barbara,
So, I wanted to ask you, Lisa, real quick. So what age would you say you'd have that updated, right? Because
So that's a good
Yeah.
question. So you want to make sure everyone over the age of 18, all of us should have both the financial power of attorney, durable power of attorney. So that's, and again, someone, not because they're your kid, but they have to be someone who is financially secure, because you are giving someone literally the right to empty every asset and bank account that you own. That's what you're doing. I mean, you are giving them that permission. So it's not, it's not about being fair. I'll just say that. I've worked with families where, one kid sleeps on the couch and never held a job. That person's great for healthcare decisions, but not so much for financial decisions, if that makes sense.
Right.
But to your point, Barbara, I would say at least every 3 to 5 years, 3 years, you should be looking at your documents, not necessarily updating them. But at least every 3 to 5 years, look at your documents. And anytime there is a life event is when you want to make changes. So if there's a death, if there's a divorce, I mean, you get divorced, and this is something people forget about, because they're all caught up in the financials and the custody and the house and the money and all that. But what they forget is that their ex-spouse is still listed on their IRA, is still listed on their will, is still
So
listed
it doesn't.
on
So Lisa, when you get divorced, it doesn't divorce your
documents. It doesn't divorce your documents. That's correct.
Wow. That's pretty interesting, right? Pretty interesting.
And by the way, to that end, even if you're married, it doesn't give your spouse the right to make those decisions. And that's where a lot of the
I didn't know that.
That's where a lot of the push comes in, because people are like, I got my husband, I got my wife, I got my, my partner, whatever. And I'm like, no, because all you need are, like, let's say the kids to come in and say, no, they've been estranged for 10 years. She just wants his money. Like all you need is someone to contest the situation, and
you got a big struggle.
Now you got a problem, right? So now you again, you're going to guardianship, and guardianship, could go over 100. I've been involved in guardianships that were over hundreds of thousands of dollars with all the attorneys and professionals and everyone. So you don't want that.
So, Lisa, we're gonna have to have you back on, because that's a conversation that we do like to focus in on, because as much as I work in the community world, on my main job, and we're always having people come and share, but they're not listening. People are not, they're listening to the speaker, but they're not acting on it. So it is a conversation we still need to continually have to remind people. I think it's one of the important things. And, most people are afraid to talk of the end of life, especially when you're young. You don't think there's going to be end of life. But me, I had a stroke at 26. So look at that, right? So that's why I do what I do, because at 26, my life changed. You know, I could have not been here. I could have at 26. So it should tell people that, first of all, strokes can happen at any age, or your life can change at any age. So it's really, really crucial to have that conversation. So Judy is going to book you both back so that we could really.
I certainly will.
Yes, but I do want to let Barbara talk a little bit about the you know, your organization and do you is this is my question to you. I know, is aphasia considered dementia? Is that considered? I don't know. Is that considered, because you can't speak, and to me, I see Lisa shaking her head.
Yeah.
I'll let you talk in 1 second. I also, you know, when I first suffered from aphasia, from a stroke 26 years, not 26, at the age of 26, people would say that, you know, you can't speak, but you can think. But honestly, it confused my brain too. It had me a little disarrayed, and I had to learn how to defragment my brain and set things in place again. And still to this day, when I get overtired, I can't think straight. So I've learned to tell people, I'll get back to you. I'm not making any decisions right now, because we all have that. You know, when we get tired and we can't think straight. So Barbara, does that, I know Lisa to speak, but can you share?
Well, I will. You know, I know that Lisa is a certified dementia practitioner, which is, you know, it really, you know, goes through all of that, the different types of dementia. I can tell you though, from my training that I have, you know, there's vascular dementia, which is, you know, a byproduct of strokes. There are some studies out there that indicate that they say 25% of people who have strokes will develop some type of dementia within a year or two. I think that I would like to kind of further investigate. That seems very robust to me, but it definitely, there is a, you know, as a segment of the population that where people who have strokes, they do develop, you know, Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. I will say that in my community education, I do, you know, I do some brain health education when I go out and give my talks. You know, I say that it's very important to for seniors to, you know, you do coloring books. You know, we have Sudoku puzzles, anything that's going to keep your brain active. I think that, you know, that's really important for cognitive health. But specifically, you know, I can, you know, I can't really tell you, you know, about the science of, you know, whether.
I'll let Lisa, but I do want to let Judy know that'll be a great show to do, the conversation about the 25%. Like, and is there anything we could do knowing that to slow it down, just to slow it down? Because that would be an interesting conversation. And
I am in the process of getting that CDP, so that I would certainly, you know, I'm learning more. You know, every day I learn something new, and it's a, you know, as Lisa can probably say, it's a very complicated, you know, disease, and there's a lot of, you know, there's that EPO4 gene that, you know, is the inherited, you know,
is that for the
part
dementia?
of dementia, yeah. But maybe Lisa, do you know a little bit more about that?
Well, I kind of want to go back to, I think RenéMarie's question was, do people with aphasia have dementia?
Or are they similar, or can?
So, okay, this is my experience, and I think this is kind of, it also kind of goes back to compassion is the only way, the title of the talk. So what I experience, and I will say, when it comes to dementia, when it comes to stroke, when it comes to aphasia, when it comes to, you know, before we spoke, I think you were saying you wanted to know if we have any experience working with persons, you know, who are living with aphasia. I think one thing is to not assume that a person, just because they have dementia, just because they have aphasia, just because they had a stroke, just because they have Parkinson's, just because maybe they can't articulate verbally, but don't assume at all that they are not taking in, whether they're taking in 10% or 100%,
Right,
right?
right.
So,
Or the
and one of-
process, and this I can only speak because I experienced it, or the process could be slower.
it could be slower,
yeah.
but I think that just a general 100 generalization, no. And I think that the one thing that I always say to people, and I say this to families, I'll say this to everyone, do not ever forget the patient is in the room.
Oh, yes, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that, you know, I'm sure Barbara, you experience this a lot because you are in dementia facilities, right? So
Yep.
there is that, you know, you might have the families talking about the person right next to them, but don't assume. So I think a hemorrhage, that's a catastrophic stroke, right, Judy?
Yes, it's a
Okay.
bleed in the brain. And
I
what
have a
happens,
client right now who had that.
I just
And
want
it
you to know, along with what you said, Lisa, a first cousin of mine went into my dad's room right after his hemorrhagic stroke, took a look at him and said, "Oh my God, if this ever happens to me," and I yanked her out of the room. And I said, "If you can't say anything positive, don't come back."
And that's it. I mean, it's that, you know, along with that, my client right now had that stroke. He is physically incapacitated, physically disabled. However, we know that he understands everything that's being said, even
Right.
though he
Right.
cannot articulate. Okay.
Right.
So, again, it's just because someone may have communication. And so, RenéMarie, maybe it took longer, maybe it took, but it doesn't mean that 100% we assume right from the get-go, because you had the stroke, that you don't understand,
Well,
that you
you know,
can't hear. Yeah,
Strokes are so different.
Right.
Each stroke is a unique experience. Sometimes people have a stroke and they have no side effects. Some people, so they're so different. So each one has to be handled differently.
100%.
Yes. I mean, I know that because we've had tons and tons and tons of guests on the show, and that's something that I experienced, and I'm blessed to be able to share with people, you know, the other side of it and how it feels. That's what I always tell people, like, you know, if you haven't experienced a stroke, you don't know how it feels to suffer or to I don't like to put suffer, I like to say experience stroke or aphasia, because I've experienced both.
Right. And no matter what the illness and what degree the illness is, when you visit someone in a hospital, okay, or if they're at home, I don't know, but in a hospital setting or a nursing home setting, you go with a positive attitude, or don't go at all, because they hear it, they have feelings just like you have feelings.
Yeah.
And it's devastating to hear someone say that you're not going to recover or whatever.
Yeah.
100%.
That's one of the things these are some of the conversations we have with our families, especially when it's a husband or wife and they've gotten to the point where they really can't care for them at home anymore. They either are wandering, they're falling a lot. So we've had these conversations, and it's all about guilt, right? The guilt of not being able to continue to care for their spouse who they've been married to for 50 years. But I always I say, well, you know what, your visits with your husband or your wife are going to be so much more meaningful, because you don't have to really worry about, you know, whether he needs new pants or how to feed him. You can go back to, you know, having that relationship that you had before, you know, when it was just, you know, your honey, right? So you can go back to.
And I used to wheel my dad to music or whatever, or to an area, and really have long talks with him, and in the good weather take him outside, and he could converse, and he had a lot of memories of years before.
And again, it's the guilt, right? So that's what we have with our communities, and we try to say, you know, it's, don't feel guilty. This is something that you're doing for them. You're going to help them, and it's going to, you know.
But I think also it's, you know, what Barbara's, you know, does with the communities is it's taking away the business of, and that's kind of what I try to do, is I try to take away the business of, and make it so that when people are making plans, when they're making decisions, when they're choosing to put someone, it doesn't mean that it's just taking away, like you said, the physical piece of the activities of daily living, but it's not a substitute for you being the primary caregiver, for you, being there to go every day, but you don't have to worry about, are you going to literally twist your arm out? Because I've had these things happen because you're not a trained home health aide, which is what you have it, or certified nursing assistant or whatever it is. You don't know how to turn that person properly or help them in the shower or transfer from the bed to the wheelchair in a way that you potentially are more at risk for getting hurt. So take away the business of, and now you get to have these enjoyable, and that's what I focus on. I focus on quality of life, independence, meeting people where they are, which is really the hallmark of dementia. When we're working with a person with dementia, you meet them where they are. When you start saying, I told you that, I just finished telling you that, I told you 10 times.
You never do
You're
that.
not listening.
No.
Everyone's frustrated, right?
Frustration, yeah. And then they can get combative and all those other kind of things too.
I was going to say that when I go to locations and perform, I'm very aware of the music I'm bringing to them and the words that are said in those songs. And I always do high energy songs. For the first 30 minutes, I'm doing high energy, like songs like not the Eagles, the 8 Is Enough, the Beatles, Knock 3 Times, like songs that are just happy-go-lucky, fast, fun songs. And then I'll bring them, slow it down a little bit and do meaningful songs and then pick it back up. And, taking care of business and joy to the world. And I really I want to bring them some light and life and happiness. So I get it. They do hear and they are aware, and sometimes it's not even if they don't understand. Sometimes they could feel the excitement and the joy and just the happiness that music brings them. It's really
and
is.
It's empowering. We want.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to if RenéMarie, you experience this, you hear, and Judy, your dad, you're still in the room. Well, that doesn't mean that your decisions are being taken away. That doesn't mean that, we were speaking before we came on about, I've spoken a few times with caregivers at Adler Aphasia Center.
Oh, yes.
And the kind of biggest thing that they all communicated to me, everyone, is when someone goes to the doctor, right? They take their loved one to the doctor, and the doctor looks at the caregiver and doesn't speak to the patient. Don't forget that. And they go, what do I do? I said, find a new doctor.
Wow.
That's
I mean,
right.
We had this couple on the show a long time ago, and when we were speaking to them, he didn't answer. He did, she suffered the stroke. She suffers from an experience of aphasia. He didn't answer. He let her try to answer, and then would look at her and say, "Would you like help?" And I love the fact that he was respecting her space, and that's why she's come so far. Because he empowered her to
That
be
was
able
a couple
to,
from California that we.
yes. And then the flip side is when you have that support there for you all the time, you'll do better because you know that you can do it sometimes, you can't do it sometimes, but that person that's next to you, no matter who it is, will help you to be successful. We're after 10 o'clock. I told you this hour was going to go fast, and we're going to have to continue the conversation. And I do want to give you like a minute or so to just recap on your organization and what you do. And we're definitely going to come back, and any last minute items you want to share that came to you during the show, we're coming back. I told you it was going to go fast, and we're going to get into conversations that are just going to sprout, So, Barb, I'm going to let you go first and share with us once again.
Okay. So again, I am the community relations specialist working with the 3 northern New Jersey communities of Arden Courts, a division of ProMedica, Senior Care, West Orange, Wayne, and Whippany. We have on our team, I have 3 awesome inside marketers in each one of those buildings who Jeanette, Lori, I wanted to give a shout out to Jeanette, Lori, and Marla, who without them, our communities would not be doing as well as they are. We're very excited. We have a lot of events coming up, and I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And make sure you share with us the events, because I'll post them on my Facebook page and I'll send them out, and I'm sure Diane sends them out as well. But make sure you add me to your email.
Yes, definitely.
My email. Okay.
Okay.
Lisa?
Yeah, and also just a shout out to Diane Bromberg Stern for bringing us on today and creating this really great chat. And my goodness, how quickly the hour went.
You worry about it, but the truth is, like,
yeah,
we've done this so many times that, initially it's like, and all of a sudden we just start talking, we just start sharing things, and it really is a conversation. That's why
oh my gosh, this was wonderful.
You're part of the family now. You'll come back. Don't worry.
Yeah, so just like a plug for what I do. So I am the owner of LMR Elder Care. I'm in my 18th year of business as a geriatric care manager. Yes, I have those initials after my name, but it's more just about working with families, working with patients, working with persons living with disabilities, and working with family caregivers to provide support. I have a gazillion resources, not just locally, but all over the country. I consult with people. I've had clients in California, Hawaii, Canada. So, a lot of the advocacy tools that a person uses when someone is in, a hospital, a subacute, home, how do we do, certainly through the pandemic, I wasn't allowed in the hospitals. And so I was working, my clients, everything was remote. So truthfully, Zoom has been a godsend to some degree, to allow us to be able to all communicate from different places on everyone's schedules. So yeah, I will do, I do one-time consultations. My fees are very fair for what you're getting in return as far as value added. And I encourage anyone to reach out. I have a website, lmreldercare.com, and you can contact me and we can have a chat. And it doesn't even matter if we're going to work together or not. I'm happy to give you, share my resources and some tips or what have you. And if it makes sense for us to get together and decide whether or not, we want to continue working together or have a one-time consultation, I'm down for all that. And that's the benefit of being a solopreneur, that I get to create my own schedule and do it how I want. So,
and the truth is that, going, sometimes you need to take a sidestep to other options to help you, because yes, you'll be paying you, but you will give them resources and information that may save them money or get them more money from the healthcare. Like, you're an advocate for them. So
100%.
Your resources will really be
I don't think there's a single client that I have had in 18 years, and I'm talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, that I haven't helped make one thing better from before we spoke till after. And a lot of times it really does have to do with resources. I spoke with a family, the son is in California just 2 days ago, and the mom's out here in North Jersey. And I'm like, all right, tell me it all. Like, I'm not taking account numbers. I'm not like, I'm very informal, just like this talk is.
Right.
And at the end of the conversation, the son was literally like wide-eyed and like, oh my God, I didn't realize that, because I just kept saying, she's okay. You have options. You can do A, B, C, D. You have the resources. This is how we're gonna put it together. And it was just like the light bulb went off, and you could visibly see the face change, like for both, because mom was part of the conversation. And so when they both realized that it's not one way or the highway, and that there were choices and options, it lifted. You could visibly see
Yeah.
the lifting of
And
understanding.
that's incredible. That's incredible. We do have to go. Because I know Judy has to run. But
Yes.
Judy, do you want to say anything before to wrap things up?
I just want to say it was delightful to have both Lisa and Barbara as our guests, and I'm looking forward to talking with both of you on the phone this week and setting up another show, because there's so much more to say.
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
thank you.
honestly, if you're, Judy, just a thought, you could bring in 2 more people and we could do a 2-hour show, like a real conversation about it, because conversations are the best way. Information, people don't, you have to, I believe, and we've learned that it's important to share a piece of information, but then give examples of why and why people are feeling the way they're feeling, like Barbara and Lisa just did, so it's very valuable. So just the thought, you could do whatever you want, Judy. I trust you. So anyway,
Okay.
Jim, could you put up that photo before we run? We are starting a support group, a live support group. You're both more than welcome to come. This is our first one on when is it? June 28th at the Hawthorne Library. I know of 3 stroke patients that are tentatively coming. I'll send you guys the flyer. If you could put it out to everybody, that would be incredible, because we want to make sure. And once again, I put that, it's going to evolve the way it evolves. We're just putting it out there, and we're going to see what our community needs, because it changes all the time. So it'd be incredible to have everybody there just to sit around and chat the way we're chatting today now. So Jim, is it up?
I already put it up and took it off.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. What an incredible show. Thank you for watching us. I forget that we have an audience, but we do. We have millions of people watching us. I hope millions of people. But over the long haul, we have millions of people. So we always blow our kisses on 3 if you feel interested and comfortable in doing that. And we want to thank everybody for joining us. On 3, we blow our kisses. 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. God bless you all.
Bye.
Bye. Mi amor, yo no entiendo por qué tú más que nadie sabe qué pasó en toda mi vida. Yo no sé qué tú piensas, yo no sé lo que haré, yo no sé lo que estoy perdiendo, yo no sé lo que va a pasar. No me puedes escuchar llorar solo sin ti, no me puedes oír llorar. El día que caminaste por la puerta, todas las memorias fueron. Mi corazón está vacío. heart.